and welcome to 9 to 42, the podcast from the team at the Guitar Show UK. Join us for interviews, updates and chat with artists, influencers and those that manufacture the gear that we love. Hello and welcome to 9 to 42, the podcast from the guys at the Guitar Show UK. And I'm looking at my very good friend Jason Hunt on screen. Jace, how the hell are you?
I'm very good, mate. How are you?
I'm all right. But I'm a bit disappointed because you've got big flakes of snow, as you pointed out. You've got big flakes of snow.
Huge flakes of snow at the moment.
And we haven't got any snow.
Chucking it down.
No. I want snow and I've not got it. So
I don't.
I'm a bit jealous. And we've just been chatting off air with our guest tonight, who was basically putting us right that your recent social media posts this evening are already out of date, and actually you're part of the problem, I believe, is what our guest said.
Yes, my Bernie sat down memes,
yes,
the Jane's Addiction and the Fleetwood Mac ones that I've put out are part of the problem.
Are part of the problem. And that's come directly from our guest.
Yeah.
So tonight we have Misha Mansoor. I can't even say it now.
Now I deserve that.
You did.
Because the first thing I did was insult you guys. That's how I like to start every podcast, is just insulting the host. I feel like that just sets a good tone for everything.
I just assumed you'd listened to this before, because it's an hour's worth of random insults and nonsense, really. So we have Misha Mansoor with us tonight. Well, we're tonight. You're not, because you're in the States, so it's a little earlier in the day for you. Welcome. How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm wrapping up my solo album right now, which has been a labor of love, and I hated working on it. I really I like writing with people. Most of my life I've written, all my side projects for someone else, just having someone else in the room, and like this has been a real labor of love. Like the ideas themselves were cool, but like finalizing everything, like going through this mastering process, I'm doing everything except for the mastering. And it's just, I just want it to be done, and I don't want to have to listen to it another time, and I'm going to have to listen to it and listen for, like, export errors, clicks. Like, you're not even get to listen to it in a fun way. Like, you're listening in just the most dreadful way. So, that's where I'm at that. But, like, as far as problems go, that's not too bad, right? But I'm still complaining about it.
I know what you mean. I did a album a couple of years ago, just for fun, just for me, really. And I got a whole 50 of them pressed. I've still got about 35 of them in a box somewhere. But actually, by the time it came back from mastering, I couldn't tell any difference because I'd listened to it so many times.
Yeah,
and like I gave it to mates, and they were like, "Oh, mate, this is so much better now it's been mastered." And I'm like, can't hear any difference at all.
Yeah, I'm at the point where everything just sounds terrible, and I've accepted it. And I'm just when I'm done with this, I'll probably never listen to it again. I'll listen to it once just to make sure everything's kosher, and I'll never listen, or it'll be years before I listen to it again, because that's where I'm at with this right now. It's just, and this is par for the course for me. By the way, by the time I'm usually so involved with the the engineering, the writing, the mixing, and everything that, like, by the time we're in those final mastering stages and whatever, it's like I've heard it all so many times in every context that now all I'm hearing is the bad stuff. I don't hear it as a good thing anymore, and I just never want to hear it again. I don't even want to listen to music right now. Just silence is a wonderful gift.
So this because I've obviously been stalking you on Facebook to read through your posts and stuff like that. You announced this album in 2013, I think.
Oh, man. I mean, no, like, it's... God, I've been talking about a solo album since, like, 2005, So it's like, it's always been this idea in the back of my head, and I just never did it. I never had a reason to do it. It was always, because I write a lot and with no real purpose. And oftentimes, I'll write something for Periphery, but it doesn't get used. Or sometimes I'll write stuff that's not for Periphery, and they're like, oh, we should use that. But you end up with this backlog of stuff, and then sometimes it's stuff I'm pretty proud of, but I'm like, I don't really know what to do with this, and it's these half-finished ideas. And I always like flirt with the idea of like, I should just finish up some of these ideas and call it a solo album and whatever. And I never really had much of a reason to do it. But last year, the year before last, so in 2019, I just felt like I had not been very creative. And I was pretty bummed out about that. So I sort of made a goal for myself. Like in 2020, I'm going to be creative. I'm going to write a lot. And I just sort of made sure that there would be a lot that I would do. And I also committed to myself that I would get my solo album done in that year, which is probably the main reason why I didn't get it done in that year, because I told myself I would. And I'm just terrible with stuff like that. But, we're at the beginning of 2021. Good enough. And I had a reason. We have a label, 3 Dot Recordings. We have a vessel to put it out easily. It can get done properly. And then that's where like this fun project just turns into pressure, because it's like, I want this to sound great. And I'm not just writing, I'm mixing, I'm engineering, I'm doing all these things, and I feel like I'm representing myself on all of those fronts too. So those all need to be a certain way, and like, it's very tough not to sweat all the details. And sometimes I just wish there was another person in the room just going like, yes or no, and it would save me just hours of heartache and second guessing. But, that it just didn't work out that way. I even tried to have my brother come out, but like he ran off to do other things that are more important, so I was not able to secure him for that. So it's been a bit of a long and arduous process. It's been a real labor of love, as I said, but at least we're almost there. I thought we were there, and now it turns out we've got a couple more revisions to make, but we're almost there.
So when this is done, I'm assuming that you can't tour it at the moment, obviously in the States. So
I wouldn't tour off this stuff anyways. This is just just to put it out there, just so it's done. Just so after 15 years, I actually kept a promise or something. Because hey, it's never too late to start, I suppose. But no, there's no intentions to tour. It'll probably take 3 months of promo or whatever. So if I turned it in today, it would be out in like March, April, that kind of time. But it's not turned in today. So
do you know what? Whatever you might think about that length of time, earlier on in the series, we interviewed a guy called Simon Bartholomew from the Brand New Heavies, and he'd been working on his solo album for, I think, 28 years. Oh. Is that right?
Yeah.
So
it's still not out, is it?
And I don't think it's out yet. No.
See, that's unacceptable. 28 years. I'm saying that the reasonable cutoff is 15. That
right. I think you're right.
Reasonable person. So he's completely out of line.
Yeah.
I just made the cutoff. And I didn't, the rules are not up to me. I'm just conveying them to you guys.
On a serious note, though, you've been doing that, I guess, largely on your own.
Yeah.
And is that where effectively trying to self-produce is a challenge, where actually having a producer there would be helpful for somebody who would say, do you know what? That's fine, leave it. Don't go. It's great.
That's actually an interesting question, because on the surface it seems like it, but actually, I have such a clear vision for what I want that I don't need someone telling me what to do. I just need someone more to bounce things off of, like, hey, is that cool? Or am I, I'm just too close to it. And sometimes it's tough to take that step back and see the forest for the trees. Like, I'm just obsessing over this one part, how the guitar tone is binding with the bass on this. And like, it can, when I do listen to this again, like down the line, this happens with every Periphery album. By the time we put it out, I'm like, oh God, like, this is wrong, that's wrong. I hate the way the snare drum sounds on this. But I'll come back to it a few years later, not attached to it. I'm like, oh, that was cool. We captured a pretty cool vibe. But it's because I'm now out of it, So it's more like having someone who is out of it. What you're talking about is great when you've got someone who's got a lot of talent and a lot of ideas, but doesn't really know how to like arrange, doesn't have a clear vision for what they want. You bring someone in the vision and they can sort of like temper that into something. And ideally you have similar enough visions at the end of the day, and you have good enough chemistry to where the result is more than the sum of the parts, right? But we've had trouble working with producers, both as the band. I've never really worked with anyone from my personal stuff, but it's because unless they really fundamentally understand what you're going for, you'll just butt heads. And I've produced bands and had that problem as the producer as well, where like someone thinks they want my input, but they actually don't. And I've tried to quit those projects too, because it's like no, it's very clear that you know what you want. You don't want my suggestions, but you just also need someone else to help you finish this. But this is not really the job I was hired for. I was here as like a creative contributor, and someone who could direct this thing. And this is based off of our conversation, what you said you wanted. So this is what makes sense. But, maybe they didn't communicate well, or maybe they think they want something, but their gut says they want something else. Producing is a very weird sort of nebulous role, like in its definition, and it can be so many things, and it's kind of a tough one, and that's why your question is super interesting, because in the right scenario, maybe there's a person out there who would have been the perfect quote unquote producer for this, but I don't know who that is, and I kind of just had to rely on myself to do it, and that's why these things can take a very long time sometimes, because it's just the second guessing is real. And you want to put out something that really is special, it's not about other people, it's just I have to feel a certain way about it. And sometimes I'm just not, and I know it, and until I do, I just can't put it out, or it just gets too discouraging. I'm like, I give up, So that's been kind of the dilemma.
So we're looking at you on the screen now. Are you actually in your own recording studio?
Yep, I am, yeah.
So is this like a... not in your house, or is this in the back of your house?
No. This is just one of the rooms in my apartment. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, this is my creative space, and generally, the dirtier it is, the more music I've been writing. So it's relatively clean now, because I've been mostly just like mixing and doing like. The less creative stuff happens, the cleaner it looks.
So one quick question before we get on to a little bit more about you and your career. We've watched a lot of images come across from the US this week, as you could expect. A lot of positive images coming across from the US this week, and it feels not like a weight's been lifted, but it certainly feels like it's been a more positive week, shall we say? Is that the vibe across the country? That's certainly what's been, for those of us looking in, that's what we're seeing.
Well, it's interesting that you say positive, because as probably one of the largest QAnon supporters, I still think this election was stolen, and it's very clear that, I don't know why you're laughing, it's very clear that Trump will find a way. Trust me, I know that Biden's in office, but just you wait. The new date is March 14th. That day, we'll see who's laughing. We'll see who's laughing then, because he's got this 5D chess plan. Trust me, to get in there. No, it's been a massive relief, and I mean, I've been somewhat outspoken about certain things. I generally don't talk about politics unless it's like super important. What happened? The insurrection at the Capitol was really unacceptable, and I posted about that, and I definitely shamed a lot of people who supported that. And if there's ever backlash or whatever, I'll handle it. I'll own it. I do think I'm on the correct side of history on that one. And it is interesting that both parties agreed that was unacceptable. So, I think that's a pretty safe bet when you've got literally everyone in the country being like, wow, that was incredibly stupid and unpatriotic. But, there's a lot of people who, maybe were coerced or tricked or whatever. I don't know what leads someone to go and think that that's a good idea, and I don't really know what the end game is. It's like, great, you're in. Now what? You're gonna shoot people? You're gonna hang these people? You're gonna convince them to make Trump president, and then what? Like, go home and have dinner? Like, no, that's like, did you think past this first part? Anyways, it's been a relief to see like sort of democracy actually still working despite all this craziness, because there have been moments where we wondered like what can happen. It's been a pretty unpredictable 4 years, and I just kind of learned not to expect anything in particular. So I'm a bit relieved, and I would say a lot. I would say probably safely most Americans are too.
Yeah.
I think the reason for asking the question was that it seemed to be the inauguration last time where it started to, even at that point, it all started to look wrong. The whole thing about the crowds and what have you. From that day, it was like, oh, we're in a different kind of reality here.
Sure.
And yet, almost exactly the same point 4 years later, it already starts to feel better.
Right.
That day itself was like a cathartic kind of day. in terms of the images that we were seeing.
Yeah, well, I mean, at the end of the day, whether or not you like Biden, he's a centrist. He plays the game. He knows how to behave, And I think the bar was set so low that now you can be happy about something where it's like, oh, nothing of note happened, Yeah. Like there wasn't any crazy story. I think for a lot of people, and this might even be true for you guys, because even though you don't have to care about American politics, I feel like the whole world has sort of had to or wanted to or whatever. But like maybe this will be 4 years where you just don't have to care. You don't have to hear about it every day. And won't that be nice,
Yeah. Yeah, it is weird. I mean, but it has such a profound effect on the UK, what happens in the States.
Yeah.
And, I mean, we got almost our own. We've got a scarecrow with funny hair rather than an orange man in control. And they seem to be such good friends at times. And you just think, oh, dear God, is this where we're going?
But the difference with Boris Johnson is that, like, he's more dangerous to me because he's smart. He's not an idiot. See, Trump's unpredictable, so no one really knows. Even the GOP. I mean, like, there's a good chance that his presidency might destroy the modern Republican Party, and they might have a lot of trouble winning elections from now on. Whereas, and that's because he's this unpredictable element. They created a monster, and he's out of control. And now who knows what will happen? He won an election potentially to lose the next bunch, right? Boris Johnson is not an idiot. He knows exactly what he's doing, and that to me is a lot more dangerous, because then you can be so much more manipulative, and you can be potentially a lot more nefarious or selfish in the things that you do, which he would do just to benefit himself or his cronies or whatever. So that is not trying to compare here, but like that is the one thing that always worried me a little bit about Boris Johnson. He plays the part, but that guy knows what's going on.
The only advantage we have is that also he's fundamentally lazy, and I think he likes the idea of being a former Prime Minister more than the idea of actually being a Prime Minister, because it involves some work. So, so we've got to hope that actually in reality that he doesn't break too much while he's in there.
True.
And then he can go off and enjoy the fruits of it, which I imagine probably means, fathering another 15 or 20 more kids, but whatever comes next for Boris. But yeah, we'll wait and see. But there we are. Anyway, Jason, I will pass over to you because I believe you've got questions aplenty.
Yeah, well, I mean, I suppose the first question and the most important question when I was going through your social media, the thing that kind of leapt out at me more than anything was there was a petition to get you as a host on Top Gear.
Yeah.
I want to know which lineup of Top Gear that was. Are we talking the classic Clarkson, Hammond and May, or are we talking the new lineup?
Well, I mean, the old lineup's already been replaced, and I actually, funny enough, even though I don't get a lot of the references, I feel like the new Top Gear is very British. Like, I had no idea who the other 2%. I know who Chris Harris is because I love cars, and I've always known who Chris Harris is. But I actually don't. I'd actually say probably from most British people, he's the one people know the least. So,
yes.
So it's kind of an interesting thing. But I actually think they have a really good dynamic. So it's very different from old school Top Gear, which I'm obviously a massive, massive fan of, and anyone who's into cars is a massive fan of. I don't know what that petition's actually for. It's more commentary on the fact that, like, yes, I love cars and it's all I think about all day. And same thing with one of my best friends, an incredible musician, Tosin, who I accidentally got into cars while producing The Joy of Motion, like, because I picked him up from the airport and I'd just gotten a BMW M3 and he was like, "Oh, new car. Why'd you get it?" I was like, "Because it can do this." Like, I kind of drove it in a spirited fashion. And like, by the time we got to my place, he's like, I think I might need a car that can do that. And yeah, so like, he's gotten super into it. And actually, there's a lot of musicians in the car community. And the cars are like one of those things that, like, most people don't care about. And most people don't want to hear you talk about it. So when car people find each other, it's like, oh, you're one of, okay, so we can have a conversation and then we'll just talk for hours about cars and nothing else. And everyone's like, what weirdos, So I've ended up becoming friends with a lot of musicians, or I'd say car people who happen to be musicians, because we rarely ever talk about music, and we really just talk about our love of cars, you know. And yeah, I think they were saying maybe Herman from Dragon Force is the third guy. I forget. But whatever it is, it's entirely a joke, and I wouldn't take it seriously. No one can replace the original three. I mean, that's well known. That's a well known fact. Still heroes of mine, you know. And I know that like not all British people love Jeremy Clarkson like for his political takes, and that's fine. But him on Top Gear is wonderful, you know.
I've got a Clarkson story. So,
no way.
15-ish years ago. So I don't know if you know the place. You might have played there with Periphery. The NEC in Birmingham. Big. It's the biggest event venue in the country.
My memory's bad. My memory's bad. It's possible, but maybe not.
The thing is, the arena's not called the NEC. The arena is called the Barclaycard Arena, the Genting Arena, whatever sponsorship deal that they've got. So it changes.
We might have been too small to play that.
And so I was running a sort of an event like I run now. It was called Music Live, and it was like a mini NAMM.
Okay.
And it was in November, and my company that I worked for. So I was in one exhibition hall running this event called Music Live, and across the sort of like walkway was another exhibition hall in which was Top Gear Live. With the three of them.
Oh, yeah.
Which was also run by my company. So they were the biggest events company in the UK at the time, and so we all stay in the hotel, the Hilton Hotel on site when we're running events, and so we're there for about a week. And so we'd done the opening day sort of thing. They've been quite successful. I've been really successful, and I'm sat in the bar, and it's about 10 o'clock at night, and the equivalent of me on Top Gear Live gives me a call and says, Jace, I need a bass guitar, a drum kit, and a keyboard. Right. For tomorrow morning. The three of them have decided that in between presenting on the stage, they're going to form a band and perform.
I've seen this. I've definitely seen. Well, I don't know if it was that exact. I've definitely seen them playing instruments.
Yeah. And I was like, okay, you see, you need this. Yeah, we need it for 8 o'clock in the morning. It's 10 o'clock at night.
That's funny.
I'm half drunk in the bar. So, but fortunately, I've got an exhibition full of gear, and whilst that's on display and I can't take that, I'm able to get warehouse people to drop stuff off at 8 o'clock in the morning.
Right.
Get all this stuff, mad scramble, get it in backstage, put the electronic kit together for Clarkson and everything. They never touched it.
Oh, really? Oh, that's amazing. I have seen whether it was a Top Gear Live or something where they were attempting to play. It seems like they were just having a good old time.
One thing I need to pick up on from what you said: driving in a spirited fashion. Is that what it said on the charge sheet?
Right. Yeah, that's what the cops call it. They might have more colorful words for it. But
well, closing off Top Gear, the other two guys, one's a comedian, a northern comedian, and the other guy, Freddie Flintoff, he's a cricketer, and
right.
and cricket is that sport that baseball wished it was. So so that's the kind of explanation for that, really.
I mean, I have seen cricket games, and I don't understand what's happening ever. I've watched highlights. I actually watched like the Freddie Flintoff highlights and whatever.
Yeah.
And it just sounds like people are saying random words and there's just a random set of actions. And I'm pretty sure that like I could play cricket too. I should do a video where like where I do what cricket looks like to me, because I have no idea what's going on. I'm sure it's really impressive though. I'm pretty sure I just like insulted like the entire world right now. By the way.
I think you should do it, because I think that's going to be the next thing on TikTok.
Right? Yeah, that'd be a good
the world.
Like just do a quick video on what cricket looks like to you.
Yeah.
No, but I know cricket is huge everywhere. Again, like Americans live in a bit of a weird bubble.
Like with all your World Series and stuff.
Well, yeah, hey, America always wins the World Series, so isn't that great? But no, we're the only ones with the common sense to call soccer instead of football, which is another sport entirely. But yeah, I mean, I know we're in a bit of a weird bubble, and it's one of those sports. There are like sort of more alternative sports or whatever that find their way here, and like soccer or football is is a growing sport in the States. But like, I'm not aware of anyone who plays cricket here.
No, cricket's never broken through.
Yeah, if you have a cricket bat in the state, it means that you're gonna break into a store or something.
Yeah.
Like that's all. That's all you do with that.
I can't remember where it was. It might have been in San Francisco.
No way.
It's wherever there's a huge West Indian sort of immigrant population.
Oh, okay.
And I'm sure it was San Francisco that had got its own cricket team. I mean, God knows who they play.
Just themselves.
It is the one that's never broken through, though, isn't it? Because you're right. Because football, soccer, whatever you want to call it, that really is starting to take hold now. But I don't see cricket ever breaking through in
okay, but you have to understand that, like, and maybe this is just a perspective that's hard to have because you know the game, but like as someone who doesn't know anything about it, I'm not joking. Like, it is one abstract, strange sport.
Oh yeah,
with all sorts of esoteric terms. So it's like you can't just like okay, you've never seen a football, right? Like soccer game, a baseball game, or especially basketball or hockey or something like that. You could go to a game and be like, I understand. I can see generally what's happening. Baseball, maybe even a little less so. That's a bit weird. And I think that's why that doesn't necessarily transfer so well. But like that is a thing. And American football, of course, is also like, I'd say it's like halfway through. But like cricket is just like, I really, really do not understand what I'm saying.
No, it's out there. You're right. Because if you watch baseball and you're from the UK, you probably played rounders at school.
Right.
And rounders has the concept that you run around effectively to get a run. You run around a section and you've got to hit it with a bat that's a similar shape. And the only bit that's complicated in baseball is really understanding how you get out. I mean, I understand if somebody catches you, I get that.
Yeah.
But the whole thing about a ball being, a strike or what have you, just depending on roughly where it falls within a guy's frame.
Right.
That's the bit that's a little bit odd. But
there are a lot of weird like situational rules, and there's a lot of really fast decisions that happen like with very little action overall. But I'd say baseball could be tough. But if you're what you're talking about, at least you have something to draw upon. There's nothing that we have that's like cricket.
Nobody's got anything like cricket.
I kind of want to like learn how. I'm gonna watch a YouTube video on how it works now because like I'm fascinated.
It's the only sport that has 2 meal breaks in the day.
Wait, what?
Okay, so you stop for lunch and you stop for tea in cricket.
You eat.
Yes.
During the sport.
Yeah, you stop and you have a meal break, and that happens twice.
Okay, I want to play cricket.
That happens twice. I mean, no other sport does that.
Wait, how long is a game?
Well, a test match is over 5 days, and it's from the hours of 11 till 6 in an evening.
You see, now I can't tell if you're just messing with me because I'm American. They're like, well, the game takes 3 months, and
listen, it's got nothing to do with the fact that when you said QAnon, I genuinely thought for about a nanosecond you were being serious.
Good. That's all I wanted. That's all I wanted.
No, and you managed it. There's a bead of sweat running down my neck still.
You're like, technical difficulties. I can't hear you.
We've got a nut, Jace. But no, cricket. Yes, you do. So a test match. There's various forms of cricket. Starting from a form that you can do in 3 hours called 2020 through to what the cricket proper is test match cricket, and it lasts for 5 days, and you start at 11 in the morning, you finish at 6 at night, you have a break for lunch and you have a break for tea in the afternoon. And I'm being deadly serious.
That's insane.
It also has 4 different outcomes. So you can win, you can lose, you can draw, and you can tie.
What's the difference between drawing and tying?
So tying is that you end up on exactly the same score, but a draw means that after 5 days, neither side has won.
Wow. It's the quantum sport. It exists in many states. Yeah, and the losing team, I assume, all gets executed by hanging, right? At the end, of course. As is tradition.
It is. You know, we've seen on sort of like lots of footage what they call like the you pull up to the stadium, you open up the boot, the hood of the car, and get the beers out and the barbecue and stuff like that. But cricket does that for 5 days.
That's insane.
You can start drinking at 8 a.m.
So is it just a 5-day drinking binge? Because it does sound, to some degree, does sound like baseball in that it's long and I'm guessing relatively slow at times. And that's what you do at a baseball game. There's 9 innings. It's a pretty long game. It can go for a while. So you go there with your buddies. You don't have to absolutely pay attention the whole time. You drink your beers. You know. But it's like, even like on the longer side, like 4 hours, 5 hours, like which I consider to be way too long. And which is why I'm not a massive baseball fan. I'll go to a game, but like it's a long time. But you're talking about 5 days of that.
Yeah.
Man, no wonder you guys did Brexit. Sorry. I'm sorry. That was mean. You guys don't deserve that. You're very nice guys.
Anyway.
All right, now we've lost absolutely everybody because I've managed to insult you guys, your entire country.
No.
Let's move right on.
You're fine. You're fine. So 30 minutes in, let's start the podcast.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Sorry.
This is a record for us. No, one thing I was going to say, because this has all been thrown together. Sounds like it's been thrown together. This has all come about because we're now sponsored by Focusrite, and you have a relationship with Focusrite, don't you?
I do indeed. Yeah.
Should I explain why Simon suggested? Simon came in and said, I'll sort out a guest for you. Because a couple of years ago at NAMM, I met him outside the Marriott bar one night. And we were just having and I didn't really know him, and we were just having a chat. I knew some other guys from Focusrite and everything. And then it turns out that he's a bass player, which I didn't know. And I said, well, I'm just going to, is it the Clarion Hotel that's on the corner of Convention Way at NAMM or whatever? And I said, well, I'm just going to the Friday night bass night or whatever it's called. I mean, it's a truly hideous sort of like evening of entertainment. And he said, who's on? And for the life of me, I can't remember because it all went like really loudly for hours on end. And I told him who the lineup was, and he was like, oh my God, he's a hero of mine. And I went, I'll get you in. And that was like, whatever you want, mate, I'll sort it out. You got me into a night of bass.
Wow. Well, that's apparently the gift that keeps on giving.
Yes.
I would say that I left the night of bass before Simon did. I was in there about an hour and a half. I was like,
an hour and a half. Wow. That's impressive.
There was a bar.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
solves up. Yeah.
Anyway, back to our guest and Focusrite. So you've got a relationship with Focusrite. How did that come about?
I think back in the day, they were introducing their small USB interfaces. They wanted me to do a video. I did a video, which ended up getting like a ton of views. I don't really know why, but it was just sort of like recording basics, like very, very, very preliminary stuff. And I think that's why I was like, maybe I should do more of these things or whatever, these instructional things. I was trying it out. I was working with my buddy Jeff Holcomb, who does lights for us live now. And he edited it, and I think that's where it all started. And we just kind of, I like to work with people that I get along with, and like their products are good. And really, with the interfaces, I just want them to be reliable, and I just had really good luck with them, and it just kind of evolved from there. And right now, you're hearing my voice through a Focusrite preamp. Sounds warm. Kind of vintagey.
You're also hearing my voice through a Focusrite preamp as well.
But are they also hearing it through a Focusrite Red 8 pre-interface? Oh, No. Now, I mean, like they've outfitted me with stuff. I've been, it's one of those things where like if it works, that's the main thing, because not every interface has been very stable for me in the past. It's the worst when these things malfunction and crash. But I've had very good luck with them. I like working with them. We've done a bunch of little things over the years, so I've kind of stuck around with them. In this business, it's about just working with people that you like, right? It's probably one of the most important things. So, yeah.
Yeah, no, it's worked out really well for us, hasn't it? They've been really great, and
they have. I mean, we did say thank you for the offer of sponsoring the podcast. We will take the piss.
Yeah,
and they went, yeah, it's all right. So,
yeah.
Which I know is not how it's supposed to work, but actually, they get it, so it's fine.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, it's funny because interfaces, which are like the least sexy thing to try to sell. We have many conversations about that with them. It's just like, it's a very tough thing. It's a tough thing to sell, because when it's working perfectly, basically nothing really happens. It's like, oh, it records. Yeah. But like, like I've gotten now a setup with like all these inputs. You see all this gear, so now like we worked out a setup where all this stuff's just plugged in, which is kind of wonderful. And they helped me out with that, which is nice. But yeah, it's a bit of a tough thing to explain to people, like why they might need this, why do this brand over that brand or whatever. It's not like getting like a sexy new guitar or pedal or something like that, We're like, ooh, look at this.
That does kind of lead on to the fact that you've just launched a new guitar, haven't you? What, 4 or 5 days ago?
Yeah, I've got it right here actually. This bad boy.
Very nice.
Should be starting to ship in April or May. I think. Got a couple other things coming out this year. Also got this one actually.
Oh, isn't that the NAM acronym? Isn't it? Not available. Maybe May.
Right. I haven't heard that, but my God, how accurate. Yeah. So I did like I've got these like Pro Series, these import versions of my guitar. And we put Evertune Bridges on them. So now they're available with Evertunes or hardtail, whatever you prefer.
I've never actually played an Evertune.
Oh, really?
I'm utterly fascinated by them.
Yeah.
Given that I tend to play Les Paul type guitars more than anything.
Yeah. Which
go out of tune basically as soon as you look at them.
Yeah. And you said you record in the studio quite a bit, right?
Yeah.
You need an Evertune. I mean, it literally cuts down my studio time. And you know how much time is in the studio just tuning. Just tuning. Like, this is one of those things I tell people, like, you don't understand. Like, when you record an album, like, half of what you're doing is tuning. It's like, no, that's not in tune. No, it's not in tune. Retune. It's just like, that is your life. So having something where you don't have to do that is a huge time saver. I still prefer the sound of a guitar with a hardtail bridge, and I still think they feel a little bit better. But sometimes it's just not worth the pain. So I have both. I always have both, and that's why like I didn't replace my model with the Evertune bridge. But it is like I can't tell you the last time that I did a session in the studio and didn't have one on hand. It's like an essential tool, because when you need it, it will save you so much time, and you can do impossible things. Like I pick really hard. There's a way to set it. So I. Maybe for the uninitiated, it's literally a bridge that's on your guitar. It prevents it from going out of tune. Uses some fancy magic or astrology, I don't know. But anyways, like there's a way to set it to where like literally nothing you do will, you can bend, you can do whatever, right? And that's sort of like the safe zone or whatever. But you can eventually use the tuning peg on the guitar is not actually to tune it necessarily, sort of to set where it is, and eventually you can tune it up to where it gets out of that range. And then it sort of tunes normally. So what I do is I have it sit right at the edge there, so that when I'm picking really hard, the note is still dead flat. You're not getting, like we tune low, and like sometimes when you pick hard, it'll go sharp and then settle. That's really annoying. It makes it hard for recording or whatever. But I'll pick really, really hard to get the tone that I want, and the note will stay completely in tune. But if I bend, it actually pulls it out of that safe zone, and then you can still get your bend, your vibrato, and all that kind of stuff. So you have that sweet spot where you get you get to have your cake and eat it too. And that is how I set it for the studio. That's how I set it when I use it live, and it's worked really, really well.
Yeah, I will have to have a go at one at some point. But I know that a mate of mine tried to get me to buy one at NAMM a couple of years ago. Yeah, it's like, and like, mate, they don't sell anything at NAMM.
Yeah,
I can't buy one. I can buy 3,000 of them if I go up and place an order for that. But they are quite expensive as well, aren't they?
I guess that I don't really know. I mean, like to retrofit perhaps, and maybe on Les Paul they make like a Les Paul specific bridge. I'm not really sure how much it costs because I haven't had to buy one in a while.
Yeah, it's a problem. I've never had to buy one.
But the thing is, I mean, like, I'm pretty sure it's like the Evertune model is maybe $100 or $200 more than the regular bridge, which I guess is nothing for my Pro Series. But at the same time, it's a pretty hefty piece of engineering. Like, and they do have to, maybe not on a Les Paul, but like on most of the guitars with like regular sort of hardtail bridges, like hip shots or whatever. Like, the carve is massive, and that's what a lot of people have a problem with. But again, it's like, I'm not saying it should be your only guitar, but if you're in the studio, anyone who's in the studio and has used one understands why I don't do a studio session without at least one.
Yeah.
So I'd say, whenever it's convenient, maybe check it out.
I will. So tell us about this new Jackson then, and how that came about.
Oh, this one, yeah. So this actually started life as a custom shop. It was on a bit of a Strat kick, as one does, right? And like I got some Fender custom shops, and ones that really just had all the mojo, and I was like, these are great. And I was like, I bet I could do a version that looks like this, but that is my guitar. So I've got my signature guitars with Jackson. The main things, like, we got super flat fretboards, like 20-inch radius, jumbo stainless steel frets. Got my signature Bareknuckle pickups, either the Ragnarok or the Juggernaut, which are aggressive, but they're versatile. But like, for my band, we need versatile pickups and versatile sounds. But when it's aggressive, it needs to be legitimately aggressive and very dynamic. I'm a hard picker, so I like it when I can use my hand as a volume knob, as it were. So I was like, is there a way to sort of combine what I like with the look of like a relic dad rock guitar? And that's what the custom shop one is. It had a nitro finish and it was relic by the Fender custom shop guys. Because Fender owns Jackson, I'm allowed to use the Fender headstock design, which is a nice little perk. And those guitars, I got two of them. I was using them live. I was using them in the studio, and they were very popular. People really liked them. And I was like, look, like, we should do a production model. And they're like, it's interesting that you say that. We're starting production in Japan, and like this, we actually think they could do a great job. This is actually the first prototype that they sent me. And it is the only prototype they needed to send me, because this guitar came out so phenomenal that it's actually been my main go-to guitar for recording and just jamming since I got it. And it was just perfect. That very rarely happens where there's not like a revision or whatever. But they just absolutely nailed it. And I was so happy with the fit and the finish and everything. I was like, we're sign off. Let's do this. So that's what's being sold now. So this has a roasted maple neck and fretboard, stainless steel jumbo frets, 20-inch radius. It's got Bareknuckle Ragnarok bridge pickup, but it's got a trilogy suite, Bareknuckle trilogy suite neck and middle. So you have the 5-way switch, very aggressive pickup. It does clean up nicely, surprisingly. But like, you have the second position and the fourth position, which are very essential Strat positions, and they sound legit. And obviously the single coils and whatever, they're well matched in EQ and output wise to the Ragnarok. It looks the part of just sort of a regular Strat, but it's a total sleeper. And I went for the matching headstock just because you don't see too many of them, and I thought it looked pretty cool. So yeah, it do sound a little different.
It does. We're recording with Tim next week, I think.
Oh, really?
Bareknuckle.
Okay.
Yeah. We try and mix it up. So artist one week, manufacturer the next sort of thing, And it's really weird actually, because I was looking through your sort of that I can't remember what that webpage is called, the sort of like the rundown of people's rigs, not the Premier guitar.
Right,
thing.
right.
So it just kind of lists all your gear, and I was like, oh my god, half of my exhibitors at my event you use. So you got a Bareknuckle, you've got a Black Machine, comes and does the event. You got a Zilla Cab.
Yeah.
Paul comes and does the event. I was like, hey, are you sure you're not British?
Oh, my dad is.
Right, okay. I didn't
And
know
by
that.
the way, thanks for that. I used to have a passport to the entire European Union. So that's why I still get to be a little bitter, because, you know, that used to get me a lot more places, if you know what I mean.
We're bitter
Exactly
too.
the same for us. Yeah.
No, but no. In all seriousness, I mean, there's just great British manufacturers. Actually, like the Bareknuckle story is really interesting because I was just on the forums. I forget which forum. I was a forum kid when I was coming up, and like, just again, it's like with cars back then. Like, no one cared about gear, no one cared about metal or anything like that. So you found a group of people that you could nerd out with that stuff. It's like, you're all my best friends. Let's talk about this all day. And like, Bareknuckles were hyped. But there was no easy way to try them out, you know, and they look cool. They had the cool covers, the camo covers or whatever. And, you know, I had a bunch of British friends who were like, they're legit. I think you should try them out. And eventually they're like, just call Tim. I was like, what? Like, they're like, yeah, he'll just get on the phone with you. And I got on the phone with him. I was like, wow, this guy is awesome. Like, he's a really nice guy. He knows everything about pickups, but he'll also admit the stuff he doesn't know. Like, he's not a know-it-all. But he the passion just oozes from him, and it was so addictive. And like, then like, he was like, yeah, I think like you'll like these pickups. And the funny thing is, I was actually getting free pickups from DiMarzio at that point in time, because they were kind of courting me for a relationship there. And I was still like, at that point in time, like, I think the first few sets I just paid full price for, and then I think I started to get like a slight discount on them. But, you know, who's a smaller company, I don't think he necessarily could have been affording to send me anything for free. And I was still just buying them over just using the free pickups. So I was like, I just love these. These make every guitar better, you know. And just since then, you know, it's like flourished into a really good relationship. Again, as I've said, like, I like to work with people that not only make good products, but people that I like. And Tim is one of the most lovely human beings you'll ever meet in your life.
He's a real monster player as well, isn't he?
Absolutely. But I don't think he could do what he does if he wasn't. You know, like, when you play, you start to pay attention to nuance. Like, the stuff that we fret about, pardon the pun, is really, really just minutia at the end of the day, and stuff most people wouldn't hear or feel. So you don't get to that level. Like, to most people, the difference between a Bareknuckle and a DiMarzio is just like, it's just a pickup. It's the same pickup, you know, whatever. And to me, there's a world of difference. You don't get to that level by not playing or being a sort of mediocre player. Like, he's chasing something very real, and he's using either his pickup design or sometimes signature design as a way to explore that. Like, when we were designing both of my signature sets, he was kind of like, you know, this is great because it gives me an opportunity. I've always wanted an excuse to try these ideas out, you know. And it gave him a reason to sort of explore that, you know?
Yeah, I went to see him years ago. He was in an Ozzy Osbourne tribute act.
Yeah, right.
But he managed to play. So you know, if you go and see Ozzy now, whichever guitarist, I think it's Gus G at the moment, just plays like Gus G, or Zach Wild plays like Zach Wild, sort of thing. But Tim managed to pull off sounding like Iommi, you know, Randy Rhoads, J.K. Lee, and Zach Wild.
Yeah.
And that's really hard to do 4 completely different styles and be sort of like,
I think
authentic.
he's got a very finely tuned ear, so he can pick up on these things that separate the players, and you know, I think that's just one of his gifts, and that's what translates to the pickups as well. But like, you know, because all the knowledge in the world can't help you if you can't hear it, you know, or feel it or whatever. And like, I think that's like the way he does one thing is the way he does everything. He's probably really just broken down what separates their styles and like analyzed and been very meticulous about like how to recreate that.
And I also don't like his Instagram feed, which is just him at the beach, essentially.
You'd be like, wait, you make pickups? beach and coffee.
At the beach.
Yeah, well, you know, he's in Cornwall, which is really nice place, by the way. It's like it's off the beaten path, but you know, I always go there to when we're designing the pickups, and I'm always like, yep, this is awesome. This is a great little getaway, you know. And as I understand, that's where people go in the UK to get away from all the craziness, right?
We're not allowed there now.
We're not allowed in Europe now, so we've got to go to Cornwall.
Well, before you know it, Cornwall will get crowded too. Right? That's gonna be the real disaster here. You know what's so crazy? Every time I would go to Cornwall, we went on like roads that are like the width of a car. And like, I'm just like, so if another car comes the other way, it's like, well, one of us is backing up for a while.
That one of you's going to go backwards.
I'm like, how you as an individual can get there, but I don't know how a group of people or a large group of people get. I think that's the whole point of that place. That's very strange.
It is. Yeah. Well, the thing as well is it's the roads are that wide and they're hedges on both sides normally.
Yep.
So
it's just like scratching your car.
Yeah, 8-foot hedge.
Yep.
Just single. Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's Cornwall. Yeah, we love Cornwall. It's great. Though we can't go to Cornwall now even because Cornwall's about the lowest COVID spot in the country, and they don't want anybody to go in.
Hey, good for them.
They've kept it. They've managed to keep it really, really low, which is great. It's interesting what you were mentioning there about Tim and the pickups, because we've interviewed quite a lot of people who make pickups or make amps or make whatever they do, and a lot of them are 1- and 2-man bands with real individuals who run the companies. And that thing you just said about this is great because I've always wanted to build a pickup or explore that kind of option, and when you do it with an artist, you can get there. Do you think that's something that's more unique about the UK, or are those people buried away in the US? It's just that we don't tend to get to...
I think you get those people everywhere. I mean, I think there's just a lot... I think there's a lot of people and a lot of musicians and a lot of industry around music in the UK, you know? It's just a very well-developed scene, and there's a lot of incentive and maybe resource to get into it. So you will see a lot of... There's incredible... builders. It's amazing what the UK is actually like when you consider how small it is, you know? But like, it's also unique in that I can't think of another country in the world where you go 30 minutes in any direction and there's a completely different accent and culture, you know? Like, most places are not like, maybe like the Northeast in the States, which interestingly is called New England, but like, you know, like it's pretty unique. I think there's a large concentration of everything in the UK. So maybe there's a higher concentration. I haven't really ever thought about that to be honest. But I guess you could get a person like Tim anywhere really. Like it's just he's a very unique person and extremely talented, and has sort of put his talents into a realm that I think a lot of people just didn't focus on those things. Like pickups were kind of like accepted to be like, you're either Seymour Duncan, DiMarzio, or EMG, and these are your choices, and this is the sort of bar. And he was like, well, what if I just build like, you know, the Rolls Royce of pickups, and I charge the price accordingly, and I don't care about costs, I don't care about anything. We have like kind of a lean operation. We do everything ourselves. You know, he has oversight over everything. What would happen, you know? And that's what happens. And I don't think he's ever run a sale in his life, you know, and the price has always been the price. And I like that, you know?
Anyway, we'll talk to Tim about all of this.
Yeah. Next week. You can just talk to him about it next week.
He comes over here, he moans about the roads. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Then he spouts this QAnon rubbish. It's just, I was glad when he went back home.
Right.
I'm kind of intrigued. You say your dad is British. So where's he from?
So he was born in London. He actually grew up in Mauritius, and that's where he spent you know, sort of beginning part of his life. Then he went to boarding school in if it wasn't, I don't know where it was. I know that like his teacher ended up living in a town called, or one of his favorite teachers, who was like our unofficial grandpa at one point, like was like living in a town called Sandwich, which is of course it was. But I don't know if that's where the school was. It was called Millfield. And then he went to London School of Economics, and then he moved to the States.
Right. Okay.
From there.
Was it Washington DC?
Yep. That's where I was born and raised. For the most part, yeah. Cool. So, kind of an interesting, and my background in ethnicity is literally from everywhere, and that's a whole other podcast right there. So, but yeah, but no, technically, I actually do have a British passport. I used to have a European passport.
Yes.
But now I have a British passport. So
Yeah, please don't remind us of that. But just
hey, man, it affects me too.
Yeah.
Maybe not quite as much. I have been kind of concerned though because I don't know how this affects touring, and like the UK is not only one of our strongest markets in Europe, but maybe our strongest market. Like London was the biggest show we ever headlined. And we put out a live album of that show. Yeah, like the UK is kind of the cornerstone of our European tours because, as I'm sure you're aware, like touring in Europe, touring in general is expensive. Touring in Europe even more so as an American band, and you know we kind of count on a lot of the income. Usually, like our European tours start in the red, and maybe we get into the black with merch.
Yeah.
You know. But a lot of that is counting on the sort of guarantees from the UK shows. And there's a lot of questions about like, are you going to get held up at the border? What's the deal with visas? What's the deal? You know, and I think there's a lot of question marks. Obviously, we don't even know the answers to any of this stuff with COVID currently. But even after that, I think we're going to see, because there's a lot of questions about what the logistics of actually entering and exiting the UK as a band would look like, and what sort of timeline that would happen on. Is that border crossing going to take hours? Could it potentially take longer? Could it take a day? You know, I don't know.
We don't know that yet. I mean, I guess the thing is, if you came across as a band to play in the UK, getting in and out the UK from the US is going to be no different now than it was before. The problem is it isn't an entry point into Europe anymore. So whereas you went through immigration to get into the UK and effectively that was it, you were done with that, and now you could move across Europe really easily. Wherever you come in, whether you come in via Europe or via the UK, you're going to face that immigration problem, but you potentially now face it twice. Now, once you go across from the UK into Europe, then you're free to go everywhere, because once Europe's let you in, Europe's going to let you move around because you'll have gone through its immigration point. The problem for the UK, obviously from UK musicians now, is we're having to work with paperwork and things. So you'll have to work with carnets and all manner of things just to get across from the US anyway. You've got that shit to deal with.
Right.
We've got used to not having that to deal with. We've got used to being able to pack load a tour bus and go and not have to worry. Now, the bits that you guys have to do to come to Europe, we're going to have to do to go to Europe as well, except Europe's only 22 miles away if you live in Kent. And that's the crazy, part of it all. For you, realistically, it's probably just going to be one more immigration line, I would have thought. But at the moment, who knows? Who knows?
But I'm looking at the Musicians Union flowchart, which they've drawn up post-Brexit, because I have to teach this stuff because I lecture the rest of the time when I'm not running events. And so British people have got to have a valid 6 months plus on their passport or get a new passport. We've got to now get travel and health insurance, which wasn't really an issue before. We'll have to have a CITES document if we obviously take Rosewood with us. Got a carnet, which is £351.60. And now I'm not sure whether that is the cost for the band or whether that's the cost per person.
Well, usually with carnets, it's depending on what you bring. Like it costs more if you're bringing more gear, at least, or I forget exactly how it works. But like, I don't remember that being like a fixed cost. And that CITES thing is just gonna be brutal, man. Like, just stop putting rosewood on guitars, I guess. Or don't
You're
ever.
All right with your new one.
Yeah,
with your
no,
roasted
I don't.
maple.
I've never actually had rosewood on any of my guitars. It's not necessarily my favorite. Generally you have it on a fretboard. It's not been my favorite fretboard material. So I've kind of skirted that. I think some of the guys might have had it just because they didn't have like ebony available or whatever. Some companies have trouble sourcing stuff. But yeah, that's just become a real pain all of a sudden. Like now you need to have documentation just for certain guitars. It's very possible some of the other guys in the band may have to deal with it,
Yeah, well, I mean, this is it. This is when it becomes like that. Well, those are my touring guitars. I know they've got maple boards, but I'm just going to have to live with that for the tour.
It's not worth it.
Because it's just not worth it. And we've also got to get an EORI number, which is a European VAT number. Yeah. So whatever merch is sold, the VAT has to be paid to European Union. And
I don't think it'll be that much more difficult for you, because a lot of what we're going to have to get used to, you guys still have to do anyway.
Right. We may have to double up. My concern is mainly the time it takes to cross the border, which already wasn't like, I guess, like you still had to clear a thing, but it's relatively quick, you know?
Yeah, you're going to have you're going to have it twice instead of once. I mean, immigration is normally where, it used to be, if you entered the UK or what have you, you'd have to, or wherever you entered, you'd have to do that immigration check once.
Yep.
And that'd be good for all of Europe. You're going to have to do it twice now. You're going to have to do it for the UK and for Europe, but you're still going to be able to move around Europe when you do it. So I don't think that's going to be much of a problem.
Actually, though, do you know what, Antno? I think it's quite fair, because every time I've got off the plane at LAX for NAM, I've stood there for about 2.5 hours before they've let me into the country. So,
Yeah, it's just making up for that time.
Balancing it up.
That is because you're flying during NAM, though, and 100,000 people are going to this convention, in LA. So, all for the same days, all, like, generally getting in on the same days, all generally leaving on the same days. So yeah,
you see,
it does get kind of crazy.
The last couple of times I've done it, I whizzed through really quickly. It was the only time I was really pleased there was a white supremacist in the White House, because I just I seem to get through that line really, really quick. So it's.
You weren't flagged down. No fly lists. No, you don't tend to have that problem. That's interesting.
No.
I got the wrong skin color and last name for that, unfortunately.
I was just thinking when you were talking about guitars there, because I was looked over to the wall and thought, well, my Strat's got a rosewood board on it, and I just started to think about the difficulties of moving that around Europe, and really just was thankful for the fact I can't really play. It's never going to be something that's going to ever be a concern, because nobody outside of this room, in fact, nobody in this house wants to hear me play, let alone outside these four walls. So it'll just stay here. I'm never going to have to move the thing.
Well,
and frankly, I'm just too old. It's not going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, as I say, I love playing shows. I don't necessarily love touring. It's not bad staying home. It's the shows. It's the shows themselves. Like, after all the BS has been dealt with, that is the fun part, But it just sounds like we're just going to be adding to that list of BS to deal with.
Well, we'll think about wrapping it up. I mean, we've done an hour, wow, which is incredible, and touched on some topics I didn't even think we'd get close to. So that's been really entertaining this evening.
I think we barely talked about guitar at all.
Which actually leads to obviously I was going to quickly ask about the solo album, if you have a rough idea when that'll be out and where people can go to find out more about that.
Yeah, I mean, that should be out. God, I'm just frustrated because I just found out that I can't turn in the last masters, but hopefully in the next few days I'll turn it in. So 3 months from today, ish. So let's say March, April, around that time. It's gonna be released on our record label, 3 Dot Recordings. So I'll be posting about it. There isn't really a Bulb. The solo album's under my pseudonym Bulb. But there's not really a site or anything. I probably should have done something, but I don't care. Whatever. It'll be out on every streaming platform, and we'll probably do a vinyl run because I love vinyl. So if you find it, you find it. If you don't, cool.
Well, let us know close to time when it's definitely around, and we'll spread the word as best we can. But more importantly, well, not more importantly, nothing more important than that, particularly for a labour of love like that. But when you come over next, we'll have to meet in Cornwall. We'll have to go for a cream tea.
I'm definitely down to do that. I mean, it's just so far. I've wanted to go there. It's just so far off the beaten path. It takes so long to get there. Like, when we tour, this is the thing people don't realize is we've been all over the world, but we really have mostly just been around the venue. It's like, I always say, I could tell you what the block around the venue looks like, and generally like that. But haven't really been able to explore places. You never really have time to like sort of get away. I couldn't like pop off to Cornwall unless we had like actual days off. And generally speaking, the bus is going in a direction, which is the next show.
Right. Well,
so
listen,
it's not like an actual day off.
Listen, don't worry about the bus. You let the bus go wherever the bus needs to go. Get yourself a day off. We'll sort out the rest.
All right. That sounds like a plan.
We'll get you to Cornwall for a night, and we'll go and because the beer's very good around there, the cider's very good around there, and we can do a cream tea the next day just to soak up the alcohol. So
okay, yeah.
You know.
I mean, well, then if that's the case, then that is the most important thing.
Right. Fine.
Screw the solo album.
Yeah, so we must do that next time you come. We'll pick up a few like-minded folk on the way over and see if we can make a couple of days of it.
Oh, I know some like-minded folk who'd be down for that.
Right,
so
right. Maybe even find a cricket match. Let's see.
Right. Hey, I'll be drunk enough to understand what's going on. That's watch that be like the key that unlocks it. I was like, oh, this is so logical now.
Beer.
You just have to be 5 beers deep, and now all the rules just make perfect sense. You know.
How pissed was the guy who invented cricket?
Right.
Misha, it's been an absolute pleasure. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thanks.
And thank you very much for your time. And we'll store up the questions that Tim, or the comments Tim has next week, and we'll let you come back on them. So we'll send over whatever Tim says, and you can have a
he can talk. Have him dedicate a good 10-minute section to me because I did it to him. It's only fair.
We'll do that. We'll do that.
I love him dearly. It's great that you guys are talking to him.
Yeah, cool. Well, that's great. Listen, Jace, anything you want to add before we...
No, just thank you very much.
It's been a blast.
Yeah, thanks for having. This was a lot of fun, guys. Thanks for having me and putting up with me, rather.
Oh no, it's been an absolute pleasure. We will have to do it again.
Absolutely, I'm down anytime, man.
Okay, it's cool. Thanks for listening to 9 to 42, the podcast from the team at the Guitar Show UK. If you've enjoyed the show, then please remember to hit the subscribe button and share with other like-minded souls. For more information about 9 to 42, please follow us on Facebook, Twitter or Instagram at the Guitar Show UK. This has been an A Short Stories production.